Hey guys, welcome back to Dork Forge. My name is Paul, and today we have a treat for you. We're going to build the Mandalorian. Now, since Disney Plus came out, the Mandalorian has been a big hit, and we've been binging it here. So we thought, let's take a crack at trying to build it. So, first, I'm going to have a little bit of a disclaimer, as you may have already been able to tell. We've not had videos recently because I've been very sick. I'm still kind of sick. So apologies for my voice, and if I cough or anything during the video, I'll try and minimize that, but just so you've been warned. So the concept is pretty simple for this. We're going to be taking the Mandalorian bounty hunter from the show, which follows the same typical pattern, he had the same kind of weapon layout as Boba Fett, that kind of thing. And we're going to be trying to replicate him in D&D as best as we can. Similar to our John Wick guide, this is more about encompassing a specific character. So unlike our previous general builds, we'll actually be going into detail about skills and backgrounds. And this might not be the most optimized build, but we're trying to gather the feel of the character more than anything. So let's get into it. So, the highlights of this build, besides being a badass bounty hunter who gets an adorable soup-drinking little guy, you're going to be very versatile. You're going to get access to, spoiler alert, this is going to involve the Artificer and a fighter. You may start to see his theme on Dork Forge. You're going to get access to the supports and other versatile spells of the Artificer, the Infusion, this magical tinkering feature. So you're going to have a lot of versatility mixed in outside of combat, but within combat itself you're going to get a lot of support and damage as well. So we've gone for the race variant human. To be honest, this is mostly because I didn't really see anything else being a particularly good fit. I did consider a Fire Genasi just because their special brand of dark vision kind of is reminiscent of the scanner that he has in his helmet, the whole faded red thing. But instead I decided to go human. It's probably, Star Wars is a universe with different races, different alien races. So I thought he is going to be a human. We saw him in flashbacks. We saw, his parents were human. So human felt right. So we're going to take the variant human and boost our dex and con. On screen is a snip from chickendinner.com. We'll pop a link to that in the description. It's a very easy to use, comprehensive 5e point buy calculator. So we're going to be picking up observant and pumping our int with our racial feat. Now I think this is really good because it's going to help really flesh out that bounty hunter feel. So you can actually, outside of combat, you can actually do the investigating, do the tracking, and you're going to end up coming away with a much more fleshed out representation of the character than just the combat abilities. So, coming on down to skills. Skills are broken down per source. So first from fighter we're going to have animal handling. Now, this is taken from early on in the series where he gets that. I'm sorry, I'm not a huge Star Wars nerd, so I don't remember what the mount's called. But he gets a mount and his new acquaintance does refer to his Mandalorian heritage as having a legendary mount. So animal handling makes sense. Perception is always good to have in general in a metagaming mechanic sense, but it makes a lot more sense for a bounty hunter to have good perception as well. Now there is an urban bounty hunter background, which I believe is from the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. Now that's going to give us insight and stealth. It's also going to give us a gaming set and a musical instrument. The instrument, pick whatever you want. didn't really fit, but we get it. I picked dice, or you can flavour them as chance cubes. Yes, Disney got my money at Galaxy's Edge. Just don't judge me. And then from our multi-class into Artificer, we're going to pick up Thieves' Tools and Tinkerer's Tools. With our variant human extra skill, I picked Survival just because typically, or personally as a DM, and I think it's fairly common from my playing experience as well, if a DM's going to ask for something to track, then it's most likely going to be survival, maybe perception or investigation. And you've got 2 out of 3 covered there. So, first we'll cover recommended spells from our Artificer. We do get the spellcasting feature immediately. So, this works particularly because the Artificer encourages you to flavour your spells as devices you make. So we're going to pick up Thorn Whip as one of our cantrips, and that's going to act as our grappling hook, which he uses typically to, pull enemies closer anyway, which is exactly what Thorn Whip does. And we're going to use Firebolt as our flamethrower. Burning Hands would have felt a little bit more appropriate, but the Artificer doesn't get that. And his flamethrower isn't particularly widespread anyway. He normally only blasts a single person with it at a time. So Firebolt works. So that cool helmet scanner I mentioned earlier, we're going to try and replicate that using Detect Magic. So you can say how, like you touch, the side of your helmet, and like how your vision turns red and suddenly you can start seeing the glow of the magical objects. Cure Wounds, flavour that as a med pack, syringe, that kind of thing. Grease and Snare I have chosen specifically because it seems to fit the capturing people kind of vibe. We don't always need to kill them, so Grease, make them slip on the butt, Snare, trap them, I think it's a well-rounded tool set that helps grab that bounty hunter feel and that iconic Mandalorian weapon set. Infusion wise, so our stand-in for a blaster in Raw 5e is going to be a hand crossbow. If your DM's using, the optional laser guns or homebrewed laser guns, then obviously take that. But we're going to be using a hand crossbow with the repeating shot infusion. That's going to get rid of the issue of the loading property, so we can use our extra attack, and we're going to get a +1 to attack and damage. Now for the other infusion, I think enhanced defense is the best option because the Beskar armor is really played up. So I think if you roleplay this in game, if you're playing from lower levels to higher levels, as when you get access to your infusions, you have maybe found, earned, traded for a piece of Beskar steel, and that infusion is you actually having a piece of your armor forged, maybe your breastplate or a pauldron or something, into Beskar, and that's where that additional armor class is coming from. Now this does involve Battlemaster, so we do have some recommended maneuvers for you as well. And I think I went more for the more thematic approach. We're kind of limited because we're using a ranged weapon to begin with, but things that I would normally include, like parry, for instance, for a bit of defense, I've left out because whilst you could kind of theme that as your armor soaking the hit or something, it just didn't really seem to fit the bounty hunter vibe. So I've gone for disarming attack. Shoot them in the arm, make them drop their weapon. Precision attack because he is an expert marksman. And menacing attack because he's very scary, and after you drop a couple guys, they're going to start to get scared. So this is really the top-down view and our recommendations. In terms of the level-by-level breakdown, we do have some progression and play advice. This is not going to be a full to 20 build, just because, like with our John Wick build, this is very much just a hitting a concept and I think if we try and keep that at a more realistically playable level, that really is more useful. So, level by level, we're going to start our first 4 levels as a straight Battlemaster. We're really rushing that ASI. Now, I've kind of broken the general advice of rush to 5 to get extra attack, because we're using a hand crossbow, and if we don't have repeating shot, that extra shot isn't going to mean anything to us anyway. So level 1, we're going to pick up archery. This is kind of optional. It really does help the whole gunslinger feel, but if you go for defense instead, you can kind of flavor that as more Beskar. Second wind is a decent little boost. Level 2, we're going to pick up action surge, so then you can start getting creative, especially later on when you have access to your spellcasting. Level 3, we're going to get Battlemaster, and we're going to get our maneuvers. 4, we're going to get ASIs, and we're going to pump Dex. Dex is really our priority for ASIs. If you do play this character at higher levels and get more than just pumping your Dex, then really, like, you could pump int, or you can look for more thematic, I guess. Like, Keen Mind would be a decent kind of like investigative feat, or maybe picking up Martial Adept so you can get more maneuvers and an extra superiority die. So when we hit level 5, we're going to make our switch to Artificer, and this is where we're going to start getting our proper loadout. So maybe up until this point, if you've played through these levels, you're a Mandalorian in training, and come level 5 you've completed your training, maybe you've graduated to being a full-fledged Mandalorian, and now you're getting the iconic tools. Now you're qualified to use them: grappling hook, your flamethrower, and like, you know, your special visor, that kind of thing. Magical tinkering is good for just general sci-fi kind of gadgets to help evoke that retro sci-fi tech. Level 6 is when we're going to earn our first piece of Beskar. Maybe we nailed a big perp, brought down a BPG, that kind of thing. And we're also going to get an upgrade to our blaster with repeating shot. And then that's going to allow us, when we swing back to fighter for level 7, character level 5 fighter overall, we're going to get extra attack, and repeating shot's going to allow us to actually use that. Now, at this point, you may be a little bit behind the curve damage wise as compared to like a straight fighter or something, or a straight caster. That's okay. This build is still going to output pretty good damage. There's a damage calculation coming up, and it's cool. Let's face it, the Mandalorian's cool. Level 8 is going to get another ASI from our fighter, and that's going to pick up either Dex or something like crossbow, explosive, or sharpshooter if you feel like your damage is lacking. You could also swing into artillerist and pick up a heavy duty blaster if you want for the turrets, but that's really up to you. So damage wise, as of level 8, we're going to be putting out 66 average damage if we all hit. We're going to have a plus 10 to hit, and you're also going to be forcing maneuver conditions, so disarming them, causing fear, all that kind of good stuff. Again, this is not a super optimized build, this is more about the theming, but you're still going to remain competitive, and you're still going to be an asset to the party. Now, if you want to keep pushing this past level 8, or if you're playing a higher level game or one shot, now we do include some notes in this guide, and as always there's going to be a link to this guide for free in the description, so you can follow along with the video, or you can just refer to it if you decide to build the character. So fighter up to level 8 for the ASIs is a good choice. Artillerist is a very good choice for picking up his like disintegration blaster rifle thing, and the temp HP turret can be themed as like you acquiring more Beskar. That's why you can soak these hits. I don't think for this particular build taking Artificer past level 4 is really advisable. I would probably focus on pumping fighter, and then just keep going, picking up, with the superiority die improvements, extra superiority die, more maneuvers, more attacks ultimately. And that's really going to be your best bet for increasing effectiveness whilst keeping the theming. But there you have it, guys. As before, links will be in the description for the calculator, the documentation, and our Twitter. Please leave in the comments what you thought of the video, give us a like if you liked it, and we will see you next time at the Forge.